and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is the brand new Audi A5 Avant, the replacement for the A4, weirdly, but let's find out if it's any good. So let's start as usual with styling. The new front end and face of Audi we have here on the A5. Flat badge with the white 4 rings. You've got some kind of curves down into the front grille. I think it's all to make it look focused and sporty, and then the grille's almost compacted compared to what we're used to. I do have to say I'm not a huge fan of the way they've done the grille, where the top is open and then this is clearly false. I'd rather they just did a smaller grille. And also there's this big radar sensor that's offset here at the front, and so if you're a bit OCD, that's likely to bother you. But I think overall it looks quite smart and aggressive. And then down the side, you don't get too many more folds and creases here. There's just one sharp line at the front that kind of softens out, and generally a nice sculpted shape. You get 19-inch diamond cut alloy wheels on this launch edition model, and large amounts of chrome here on the roof bars round the windows. But you get black surrounds on the lower part of the body and round the wing mirrors. A nice mix of luxury and sporty, or maybe some cost saving with plastic. You also get these funny aero door handles, which are electronic. The car has locked itself. As you can see, they work very well and definitely needed replacing. For the normal door handles were just terrible, weren't they? I hated normal door handles. These are much better. Fuel filler flap there. This is an diesel, so there's also an AdBlue filler in there, which is handy. It means you don't have to pour it some weird other place like under the bonnet or in the boot. This I hate deeply with all of my body. It says Audi A5 Avant TDI here on the pillars, like VW have been doing with their recent models. I just think it doesn't feel very premium. But never mind, let's go around the back and see how it is there. The back end is actually very, very sculpted, which I think is sort of a combination of what the A5 used to be and what it is now. Because previously the A5 has been the large coupe based on the A4, never offered in Avant, but it was offered as a 5-door hatchback with a sloping roofline. This now also gets a sloping roofline as an estate, sort of like a Mercedes-Benz CLS estate. Tasteful spoiler here, very raked screen with a wiper though, fortunately. Big light bar, and I didn't speak about it at the front, but intelligent Audi matrix lights, so they can dance and do clever things, and you can have them set up to your own personal preference. Why you would care how the lights on the outside of your car look, because you never see them, I don't know, but you can individualize them if you want to. Also, you get a diffuser down at the bottom, and you get your A5 badge on the boot. I'm going to see if I can open the boot with my foot now. This can only go well. There we go, seamless, flawless. In here we find a relatively generous 448 litres of space. However, there are a few caveats to this. There's no false floor here. You can't lift it up, nothing. You get this weird little compartment right at the back for your tyre iron and your locking wheel nut with this funny little cover, but otherwise nothing. You have a raised load lip because of this, so it's sort of half a hand's depth down to the boot floor. Obviously the general load lip is quite low and that will hold things in on a hill, but if you like to slide things in and out of your boot, this is not the one. Also because of this, your tyre repair kit is just strapped to the side of the boot, which is not an elegant solution, and I would expect better from a company like Audi, who are known for their estate cars. You do get a couple of annettes at the side and some tie down points, and you can release the seats from handy levers here, which then gives you 1,390 odd litres of space and a continuous load floor all the way through to the front. Not quite flat, but very, very practical and easy to slide things in and out of, you know. My favourite thing about the boot, I've got to say, is this parcel shelf that moves itself out of the way electronically, which is lovely. It's like a little assistant just going, there you go, sir, here's everything in your boot, you may take it now. Anyway, creepy Victorian boy voices aside, let's go and check out the back seats. Space back here is really rather good, actually. Even though this is a compact estate car, it's not your full-blown A6/E-Class/5 Series, I comfortably fit. I have enough headroom, my legs just get in behind this seat, which is in my driving position, and it's a big sports seat, so that's quite impressive actually. Comfortability-wise, the seats are nice and soft, they're in a pleather material, and they're nice and supportive as well. In terms of practicality, I've got a climate control zone and heated outer seats. I've got 2 USB-Cs back here and some air vent with separate controls for either side as well, which is really lovely to see. I've got seat back pockets, I've got big door pockets, I've got sun blinds, which is very handy. Centre armrest and through loading if you want to go skiing, and flip up Isofix points on both the outer seats as well as the front seats, so you can actually get 3 child seats in this car. I think though, the thing to maybe address is some of the interior materials maybe aren't as good as I would be expecting in a premium car like this. Specifically, this back of the centre console area is very hard, very scratchy plastic, and it's got controls on it, so you have to touch it. That just feels like an odd decision to me. Also, I know this is trad, but I've never really liked Audi's plastic back seats or the fact that they use stringy seat back pockets. But that's kind of their trademark, so we'll leave them to it and go on to the front. Well, I have to say the material story continues up here in the front. I associate Audi with a kind of quite simple but very solid and well-made interior with nice materials, not always the most interesting design. The design in here is clearly very full on, especially in terms of screens. Get onto that in a second. But this is hard. This is all piano black plastic. This is hard next to your leg. All of the door card is hard. There's some interesting textures on it. It's not bad. I want to be very clear, it's not bad, but this is a £58,000 car as it sits here, and I'm just not sure that this is what the interior should be like. I want to caveat that also with the fact that both the 3 Series and the C-Class also suffer with this problem, where I think honestly you get a nicer interior in a Hyundai Tucson than you get in any of those cars. So it's not losing out to its rivals there, Keeley I guess, but if you're used to an older Audi and you want to come into this, it's a bit different. Screens. There are actually 3 if I just swipe up here. So we have this left-hand screen for the passenger where you can have your infotainment and a clock and your speed. There's various things you can go through. You can go into the nav or into the radio control. Oh God, that's going to start playing now. Don't do that. For if they want to be a full-on co-pilot, I guess. This is something you get in a few cars. You get it in usually quite high-end cars, so a couple of Porsches, Ferraris, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, weirdly, and then this is there, completes that list of cars that felt the need to give the passenger a screen. And then huge wraparound screens for me, the cockpit plus. So this one is my infotainment. It's my map, my radio, my Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which is wireless or wired. Let's check out the speed. If I go to our usual favourite place, I'm hoping this is fairly simple. Oh, come on. Replace destination. Go. It's been calculated. We're getting there. The route contains ferry connections. Oh, be quiet. So that was fairly okay. The map is fairly responsive, but there are better systems out there. If I go back to home, personally I would use Android Auto all the time anyway. This big screen here though, this causes us more problems because it has warped the size of the steering wheel. So this has a weirdly big steering wheel with a square top in order for me to be able to see all of the screen through it. But I can control these screens from here, so I can scroll through various things with my wheel, right hand side, left hand side, up and down. I can put the nav there if I want to. It's the usual Audi stuff. All in all, the screens are quite good. My climate controls are here in the bottom of the screen. There are no other climate shortcuts anywhere, but they are permanent and they're always illuminated. I just would rather have buttons. And the other part of the interior that I don't like because of this is Audi always used to do fantastic climate vents. Now this is getting really anal, but these just feel like an afterthought. They used to be so much nicer and now they're just squished underneath this massive screen. So yeah, not one for screen lovers, I'm going to say. Rest of the cabin, I've got 2 USB-C ports down here and a 12-volt socket, as well as a cooled wireless charger I've got a couple of physical controls. So I've got my drive select button. That is still physical, which is handy. So I can scroll through my various drive modes. I've got a volume and skip and turn off button for the infotainment. 2 cup holders here in the centre and a centre armrest. This is a comfort armrest. So it stops up here and then you can adjust the height by putting the handle in, so if you want more support. And it is very, very sturdy, or you can have it all the way down and keep your stuff nice and secure. I've got a full-size glove box, that's felt lined. What isn't lined though are the door pockets. They're just plastic, which is slightly odd because they are felt lined in a Golf. And a Bang & Olufsen sound system as well, very, very premium, and it does sound excellent. And then onto the steering wheel, the buttons on the front, they've done a haptic button. I mean, there is physical button presses to skip track and stuff, but it's one big button with touch sensitivity on it, which feels like cost saving. It does look nice and it looks very modern and sleek, but it's just not quite as functional and tactile as having separate buttons. I think though, what I need to go and do is drive this car, because I actually really like it and I'm worried that you can't tell that yet. So let's go and do that now. So, driving the Audi A5, let's start with some basic figures. This is the top spec diesel engine, but in front wheel drive. So it's 204 PS, 400 Newton meters and a 0 to 62 time of around 7.7 seconds. I've got to say it does feel really rather urgent on the move though. I suppose a lot of that time will be used up fighting for traction, but I've got to say I've been impressed in general. It doesn't really scrabble at the front end and there's no torque steering through the steering wheel, which you would sort of expect with 400 Newton meters. So well done there. Let's start with a point about engines actually. So I've just said this is the top rung engine, it's a 2 litre diesel. The engine choices are quite limited. You can have a 1.5 litre petrol with 150 PS, 2 litre petrol with 204 PS, or a diesel with 204 PS, available with front or quattro all-wheel drive. There's no quattro petrol model unless you step up to the S5 and then you get a 3 litre petrol V6. They have announced a plug-in hybrid, but at the moment there isn't one on sale, which means compared to the key rivals it is a little down on drivetrain options. However, I do want to say that this engine, I'm a big fan of it. It's just so punchy. Or 7-speed gearbox, kicks down cleanly, gives you really quite good fuel economy on the motorway as well, which I imagine is where you're going to be driving a lot if you're looking to buy a diesel. Easily achieve 45 mpg at motorway speeds, so it's a great choice for a long distance cruiser, and I've got to say it is very comfortable. So this has electric seats. I do want to call those out as well, because if you don't get this launch edition, they're an option, but it's got electric seats. They're very comfortable. The seating position's great. There's loads of adjustability. I've got an electric steering column in this launch edition as well. Super easy to find my seating position. I'm hunkered down nice and low where I like to be in the car, and actually it feels fairly sporty in terms of a position as well, but it is very comfortable. And the suspension's a good balance of road feel and comfort as well. But the road holding's also excellent. I'll get onto that more when we're on a slightly twistier road. I've also got smart cruise control, not the strongest steering assistance, but enough, and great radar cruise control as well. So excellent at the long distance cruising thing. There's also plenty of room in here, so if you want to go and do big intercontinental holidays, this would be an excellent choice. My problem is the VW Audi group make quite a few cars where that's true, and this is £58,000 for a front-wheel drive 2 litre diesel. I would be looking at other offerings in the group and at what's available, and really strongly considering how badly I wanted the Audi badge on the front, because I think the interior and the technology in the Skoda Superb is as good or better than this. But where this should come up on top is in driving ability, because in theory this is a longitudinal engine platform. This is a more mature sporting brand, so let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of grip. It's a really good chassis, and actually if you're just driving in normal conditions and you live in a part of the world where the road is surfaced and not covered in ice, for example, for most of the year, I don't really see the need to step up to quattro. This is very, very, very composed. you don't have any of the front-wheel drive drawbacks. It is worth mentioning, though, that both of the key rivals, the C-Class and the 3 Series, are both rear-wheel drive. So if you really like to push on, there's a good chance that probably the 3 Series would be the choice for you. The C-Class definitely errs on the side of luxury and comfort more than sportiness, so actually you might get slightly more reward and enjoy driving this more. This is sort of a middle ground between the two, and I think it's the best looking on the outside and probably the nicest on the inside, despite what I have said about the interior. You've got to bear in mind that I'm framing that in the context of premium cars. It's not a bad interior, and it's a really nice car actually. I've really enjoyed driving it around this week, and you do get looks being a 20-something-year-old man driving around in a brand new Audi. I do see the appeal of the badge, certainly, and I do enjoy the fuel economy and the motorway manners. I've got it set up in dynamic mode, so this is the most you're kind of going to get from the steering and the pedal feel and stuff. It does actually have sport suspension on this model, so it is slightly lowered compared to standard, and it does really hold the road well. I can feel a little bit of what's going on. I just wish there was more communication in the steering, but I'm not missing the Quattro. This drives really, really well, and it feels as good as an Audi ever really does, being pushed down a back road. I am a big fan of this car, a really big fan of this car. I like it a lot. I just think, on a cost basis, it's a tough recommendation. So let's go back and do a conclusion. Well, there we have it, the Audi A5 tested. But at the crux of it is my problem. VAG make so many excellent estate cars, and this is one of them, that it would be hard for me personally to walk past the Passat and the Skoda Superb and choose to buy this, especially in A5 form. I understand going for the S5, I understand going for a performance variant, and when the PHEV comes out, and presumably that has more power, definitely worth looking at, provided they don't mess with the boot floor like Mercedes do. But for me personally, I think I'd be looking at those cars right now. What I do want to say, I want to be super, super clear on this. This is an excellent car. I think it's the best out of the 3 German premium cars in this space. And I absolutely think you should buy this over a crossover or an SUV. If you're looking at a Q5 or a GLC, buy an Audi A5 estate instead. They're better. It drives better. It's sportier. It has more space on the inside. Do it. Do it. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. You'll find all the links to all of our social medias down in the description. We also have 2 ways that you can support the channel. So we have channel merchandise. We also have channel memberships right here on YouTube. But the main thing is, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and go and tell me in the comments, would you buy an Audi A5? Do you think a 2-litre diesel makes sense for £58,000? Let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.